welcome to Let's Talk About Leadership, Service, and Sisterhood,
a podcast sponsored by California Rainbow,
a nonprofit service organization for girls ages 8 to 20.
These young leaders learn the importance of serving others
and gain lifelong sisters.
Learn more at gocarainbow.org.
Welcome back to Let's Talk About Leadership, Service, and Sisterhood, a podcast for teens by teens, where we discuss topics that matter to us. I'm your host, Ashley, a member of the California PR and membership team for Rainbow. In today's episode, we will be talking about dealing with bullies. We are joined today by...
Hey, it's Mariah. I'm from Woodland Assembly, and I am a member of the public relations team of 2023 to 24. And thank you so much, Ashley, for inviting me here on this podcast. I'm so stoked to be here.
Hi, I'm Maddie. I'm from Heart of the Valley in Fresno. I'm also a member of the PR team, and I'm super stoked to be with you guys tonight.
Let's get to it. Our first question today, have you ever been bullied, and what did you do to manage it or even to stop it? Mariah?
Yeah, so actually I have been I wouldn't say bullied my entire life, but I've definitely been a target for torment or making fun of. I wouldn't say it was super excessive though, but I have actually, it just recently started this year. So a really close peer of mine, whom I have so much respect for, the start of my senior year, which is this year, she completely ignored me. And she turned out to be somebody she wasn't. She was my closest friend in music and band. And I felt so isolated and alone from her. So it not only was her talking badly about me on the internet and posting things on her private story about me, but she also would shut me down when we would have class discussions and would often make fun of me to my face about music and stuff like that. I prided myself in the music program, so I was super heartbroken. And yeah, it just actually recently kind of stopped. I think it was about 2.5 weeks ago where it kind of all started calming down. I like I said before, I felt so alone and isolated, and I was so scared to talk about it with anyone because she was well respected within our music community. But we got over it. But yes, I have been, Ashley.
Yeah, I had a couple of experiences with bullying, and this is just one little short instance that I can really show what I did to stop it.
Yeah.
I remember messaging this person whose number I had, and their name was saved as a goofy name in my phone, so I thought it was somebody I was close with. And I texted, I was like, "Hey, who's this?" And they were like, "Okay, well, who's this?" And I told them who I was. They didn't recognize my name, and they asked for a picture of me. So I sent a normal Snapchat picture of me, and they called me ugly. I was devastated for the rest of the night, but I just texted them back. I said, "Okay," and I blocked them. Didn't hear about it anymore. Didn't have to deal with it anymore. I avoid them any chance I get, and I've felt better since then.
Yeah, that's sick. Cool. I think it's really cool that you just immediately blocked them. You did not let that person have that power over you. That was really cool.
So I have been bullied. I have been, like Mariah said, kind of a target for a long time. It's gone back to 5th grade because the school I'm at, it is a 5th through 12th grade school. So kids that weren't so nice to me in 5th grade are still my peers to this day. So it can be difficult to deal with it sometimes because I see these people that have done some pretty harsh things in the past and have kind of made me feel not so good at times. And I have to see them every day and kind of tolerate it. And I am so close to graduation to the point where going to another school at this point just wouldn't be worth it. And I would kind of kill some opportunities I have for myself at the school. to manage the bullying, I've just ignored it because
Yeah.
when I was younger, I was a really really weird kid. Like the definition of like a weird kid would have been me. And not only that, but I'm what people describe as a whippersnapper. So me when I was younger, I was very much here, there, everywhere. Like everywhere you look, I'm running around somewhere. So
Yeah.
as I've grown up, I've kind of gotten out of that and I've calmed down a lot. And now it's kind of like people at my school walk by and they kind of won't notice me as much because I just stay to myself mainly,
Mhm.
which I'll admit isn't my favorite because I feel like I can't really be myself at school. And when I am myself with my friends, it can get some weird looks sometimes. But then I remember that I'm with my friends, and my friends obviously have to like something about me to want to be around me all the time and initiate conversations with me. So that's really what keeps me going when I feel down at school is that there's a reason that these people want to hang out with me.
Yeah.
And I had to have done something right to get them to come up to me again today. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how I've managed it.
Dude, I think that's really inspiring, like leaning on the people that you care about when you're feeling rough. I personally have a really hard time leaning on people when I'm struggling. So I think that's really admirable that you're able to do that.
So we're going to get to our next question now. Have you ever noticed cyberbullying or have you ever been associated or a victim of cyberbullying? And if so, what did you do? Maddie, do you want to start us off?
Yes, I would love to start you off. Okay, so I believe that in today, with social media and technology being as advanced as it is, cyberbullying is much more prominent. You know, you can't go to a single video on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube without finding at least 5 hate comments. And it's
Yeah.
really, really sad. You know, it'll be comments about how somebody acts, how somebody looks, and it just really things that can make other people feel insecure. So, what I like to do in response is I will comment on those videos and I'll leave nice comments. I'll compliment the people. I tell them everything good that may be harder for them to see themselves. And then I go and I report the mean accounts, the ones that are leaving the hate comments and the rude comments. I report the comments, I report the accounts.
That's so cool. What? I mean, I've seen mean comments before, but I've never reported. Like, that's sick. Okay, sorry, I'm a fangirl for that. That's super cool. Yeah, I'm
No,
into that.
I
I'm into that.
agree. That's so cool. And you want to know something
Yeah.
that I think is like really funny and also like really effective? So like
Mm.
on TikTok, how they've added that dislike button. If someone says something not so nice, you know how funny it is to hit that dislike button?
Bro, literally, you're just like,
I,
got you, got
like
you.
I don't know if they see it. I don't know if they can see like, hey, this person disliked it, but it is just so funny because
Yeah.
like the power of hitting that dislike button and like you said, reporting them or blocking them, like it does a lot and it gets it out there if you report it. Like you it's like telling someone in real life. All right. Our next question. Have you ever tried to help someone who is being bullied at school and what happened? Mariah, do you want to answer?
I definitely want to answer this question. So of course, I go to a public school. I'm again senior in high school. And at my school, of course, like a lot of other schools, there is a special ed program. And when I was actually in my sophomore year, I had PE with them. And it was probably one of my favorite classes just because I was able to spend time with these amazing human beings. But in that class, these students would judge them. They were making fun of the way they look, the way they walked, the way they talked. And it was the most frustrating things in the entire world. I don't understand why they do that. It might be for personal reasons, but it just was really upsetting to watch. And I am a firecracker. When it bothers me, I say something. And I'm sitting there listening to my peers say these terrible things about our peers, and I can't help but stick up for them because they're unable to stick up for themselves. These people still have feelings, and I feel that way about any situation I'm in or any time I witness any type of harassment or bullying because I know how it feels. I know how it feels to be left out, and I know how it feels to feel unseen and not cared about. Um, Another thing too, so I'm a teacher's assistant at my local elementary for the special ed class as well. And when I was out with recess with them, I was helping a student who has trouble walking, and he has a lot of emotional and intellectual problems, so he's unable to talk. Um, so he got off road and he's walking, and I'm with him, and these kindergarteners were running away from him, were screaming like, "Get away from me! You look like a monster!" And just as a high schooler, that crushed my soul. So I walked over and said, "Hey, like that wasn't really kind. You should apologize to him." And I was like, "How would that make you feel?" And she was like, "That wouldn't make me feel really good." And she walked up to him and apologized. And of course, he was unable to respond, but I think it's really important for young people and even older people to understand that different is okay. Yeah.
I think it's amazing that you got the kids to quite literally walk in the bullied kids' shoes. You
Yeah.
know, you
It
got
was
them to
cool.
understand that they wouldn't like it if someone said that about them. So why should they be saying that about someone else? And I feel like that's a perspective that a lot of people don't think from anymore. I think it's really
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, for sure.
I found that admirable. I love that you stepped in the first place because it can be difficult to step in sometimes. But
Yeah.
the fact that you not only did it, but like Maddie said, you put them into the other person's shoes
Yeah.
and made them realize like, hey, I wouldn't like that. Like that's admirable.
I think empathy can be found in anybody. And like instilling that like personal feeling is really important for young people.
All right. The next question, how do I help protect the people in my life from bullying? Maddie, do you want to start?
Personally, I don't know if there's a way to protect someone from bullying. I think there is a way to protect someone from the effects of bullying because it's really hard to stop a bully, but it is possible to kind of just let it roll off your back. And I feel like one of the most important and positive ways you can help someone you know that's going through bullying is lift them up. You know, you want to compliment them more and tell them how amazing they are. Tell them the thoughts you think that you forget to say. You know, I think that's very important because a lot of people, you know, after being bullied, they don't feel the best about themselves because all they hear are what the bullies are telling them. And so they also need to hear what you feel about them. And most likely, everybody else feels about them. You know, that bully or those couple of bullies should not make your friend, the people in your life, feel like that is all there is to them because that's not the truth. And it's, I believe it's our responsibility to show them how amazing they are.
Okay, wait. So, quick question. There's advice that experts give to basically confront bullies and like set your boundaries in order to stop bullying. What do you all think of that advice? Maddie.
Honestly, I don't like it. I don't think it's good advice to give. And it's probably not the healthiest advice to take, especially with how bullies have developed in their character traits. Most bullies, if they're bullying someone, they know they're in the wrong. There's are rare cases where they don't know any better, but a lot of them do, and they're more aggressive now. I've actually seen cases of people say confronting their bullies, you know, like that advice says to do, and the bullies have been like, okay, like fight, let's fight. And I just feel like that's not always the best answer. I just feel like it can be unsafe, and a lot of the times it can lead to even harsher bullying because they know that they're affecting you now.
Not to mention, it's post-COVID, you know? So we have all been through the pandemic. We've all been on Zoom and had meetings or been in class. Like millions of us have been hiding behind computers for a really long time. So I feel like when you're confronting somebody, the cyberbullying will only get bigger. I think that there would be more negatives than a positive. I mean, yes, confronting them would be helpful, but helpful if you have the resources that you need. But it just, especially as an anxious person, I get overwhelmed so easily. I don't think I could ever go up to somebody, and I'm just extremely non-confrontational. So I'm not a big fan either.
I agree. Like, I'm very antisocial, so I'm also the kind of person where I'm like, do I really want to do that? So most of the times if it's happening, I'll just let it go. There was like one instance after COVID where I stood up to someone who was picking on another person. Um, and I did it because I got angry with what they did, and it was more of me um not standing up to them, but basically saying like, what is wrong with you to say that to this person? Because basically two boys were around my friend and decided it would be funny to call her a racial slur, and I found it not funny at all. So instead of sitting there and letting them do it because they thought it would be funny, I pretty much embarrassed one of the boys because I had known him since kindergarten and I knew what would make him upset. Um, I knew that he wouldn't be violent like Maddie said, or would be like, hey, let's fight. And that's like the only reason I did it. So knowing the person first might be a good gesture as to whether or not to confront them. Because I think, although harsh, I think more embarrassing them is what stops it. And that one thing has made him like never do it again.
I agree with you though. It for sure depends on the person too. Like there's some people at my school that I would never talk
Yeah.
to if they were being rude to me. But for sure, I just completely agree with you. I think it for sure depends on the situation.
I had
Good for you,
zero
girl.
I had zero intent to ever confront them, but it just made me so mad. And I think what made it even worse was that it was about someone who I genuinely found so amazing and someone who was like my best friend like ever. And I will never regret doing that because I know in my heart that it was right. And I know that no matter what, I stood up for what I know should have been done and what I know everyone else in that classroom was afraid to do. So maybe it worked.
Yeah, I want to add that I feel like in that scenario, they knew that what they were doing was wrong, but I feel like you approached it in like a very good way. But I also feel like sometimes when confronting the bully may not lead to like excessively bad things is when the bullies don't realize that they're being a bully. They think they're joking or they don't even know that it's hurting your feelings. But usually you can tell who those types of people are. And I think that's when, confronting them and talking to them becomes more, on the agenda.
Because that person, like, they did it to be funny because they knew it would hurt the person. And I was like, offensive jokes aren't funny. Do you think it's funny to make that joke in front of them? Do you think that it made you a better person? Do you think it made you look cooler? Because it extremely didn't. And honestly, to that advice, I wouldn't take it. Even though I just told a story on how I've done it before, If someone came up to me and told me to confront my bully, I would not do it because, like Mariah said, I'm too anxious for this. That was me confronting someone else's bully, not my own. So if anyone ever told me and gave me the advice of confront my bully, I would say, "You're funny," and then I would probably walk away.
Honestly, I would defend both of you if somebody was being rude to you, just so the record is clear, because you guys are both amazing people.
So, what do you think causes someone to be a bully, Mariah?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. So, like I said in the beginning, just talking about my little bully story, I don't blame her. I'm not upset about the way that she treated me, even though it really did suck in the beginning. And I genuinely think that people are hurtful not on purpose. I don't think they're doing it just for fun. I think that there's another reason behind it. And I said previously, like what might be going on at home or how they internally feel about themselves. I think that they're doing it because they're hurt and that they need somebody to understand or need somebody to take it out on. I think everybody is hurting all the time. And sometimes we just don't know. Again, like that doesn't excuse their behavior. That doesn't excuse how they treated me. I'm not, belittling myself, but people go through things. And I mean, if I'm all for giving people grace, honestly, is kind of what I'm saying. So I really do think that it isn't because they just think it's funny to bully somebody. You know, I mean, it can look like that, like your example, Ashley, like they were doing it to be funny, but they were also doing it to get a reaction out of somebody. That person was trying to get a reaction out of her and it worked. And I think if we don't give these people that are hurting us the power to do so, they have no power if we give them power. Again, like I felt so alone. I've never felt the way I felt when that was all happening to me. Like I would go home and pick little parts about myself that I hated about myself because of her, because I let her give me that power. I don't know what she was going through. And honestly, I don't want to know. But I know that she wasn't doing it to hurt me, or I knew that she was doing it to hurt me. Of course I did. But I knew that it wasn't just because she wanted to do that. And I don't believe in giving people chances 24/7 and whenever they hurt your feelings, they're just perfectly fine once they apologize. No. No, 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 no. I do think that there's a line and I think forgiveness is good, but distancing yourself from that person is great. Me and her aren't friends, and I don't think we're ever going to be friends again, but I've distanced myself from her and it happily has stopped, which it's so awesome to go into a room where I felt so isolated and now have people go up to me and talk to me and tell me how much they care about me, which really was special. So, yeah.
I agree. Something that I was thinking about while I was getting on this call, bullies only know how to be bullies because they've endured something like it.
Yeah.
No, it's they don't just know how to do it, they have to learn it from somewhere. So there's a chance that the person making fun of you and bullying you relentlessly, they've been through the same thing. And Mariah, your situation sounds a bit similar to mine. I had like this really great friend and just stuff happened, and for whatever reason they decided to spread rumors behind my back to my friends. And even today, the person came up in conversation, and all of my friends around me were like, "Yeah, I could tell something was really weird." And whenever I would see you two together, I felt bad for you because you didn't even realize like the things that they were doing weren't to be your friend. It was to hurt you. And that's what kind of sucked for me the most was after they were gone, people were telling me like, yeah, we could tell. Like you wanted to be their friend so badly, like you did not realize. And that's what sucks, is how much you can like love someone as a friend to the point where you will drop everything else for them. And I would have gone to heaven, I would have gone like anywhere. Heaven and earth, would have done anything for that person. Like they were my best friend. And then straight up, them not only not being my friend anymore, but them becoming my bully and becoming my fear, that broke me. So the day before, we're partying and we're having fun because it's your last day at the school, and then the next day, like, you're gone. Bye. So, really upsetting way. And then on top of that, my entire summer was just filled with a kind of grief because it's like I just lost my best friend. And on top of that, I find out they're saying all these things about me. So, when you think of what can cause someone else to be a bully, that person had told me a bunch of things about themselves on how they felt like they were in a bad position in life, and things where I'm not going to share, not sharing the person's name because everyone has their own stuff and no one deserves to get bullied no matter what. But they told me about things going on in their life and how they weren't all that happy. And then they go around and then they bully me. So you never know what someone else is going through. And like Mariah says, it's not an excuse, but it's just what's going on in life.
Okay, I have one more question for you. Do you guys think your bullies influence the way you act and the way you are as a human being?
I think they can, but they shouldn't. I feel like that's really something that's hard to take in, but it's something you need to take in. Like when I was being bullied, I'm not gonna lie, I hated so much about myself. And I know that so many other people have probably gone through something so similar where somebody's picked on them and it affected how they saw themselves. And I think that shouldn't be how you react. Something that my family always told me was like, well, what does that person mean to you? Like, they don't matter, so why should their opinion matter? And it's really hard to take that in because, it's more like, well, I was just called a mean name, it's gonna hurt. And it should be able to hurt without it affecting how you see yourself. You're still just as amazing no matter what somebody else says about you. And that's how I feel personally.
Like I said earlier, I can get really anxious and anxiety ridden. So in my head, if someone bullies me, every person in that school is going to bully me now. But in reality, that's just me being anxious and that's it getting to my head. In reality, no one in that school really cares. I go to a super small school. There's like 50 kids in my grade. Not a single one of them cares. Like they're trying to get through the school day just like me. You know? At the end of the day, you got to think this bully is trying to entertain themselves. They are bored, you know?
True. I think another thing too, though, like again, as young and impressionable teenage girls, I feel like especially young girls and women feel like they have to care what people think about them. So it's really hard to like break that cycle of like not caring. So I think it's super sick that you guys are able to do that. And I'm finally able to do that, but it took me so long to just like not care. So
Can I just add something else? A lot of bullies can be a lot closer than some people realize. Some people, like when they think bully, it's just like, oh, you have one class with that person. Your bullies can be like in your close friend group. And I think it's very important, and people don't realize it enough. Make sure you're surrounding yourself with the people that you actually want to be around. the people who are going to have a good influence on you. The people who are going to bring you up, not pull you down.
One thing that really got under my skin when I was dealing with a situation, I was actually in like a public space and people were around. I was crying. I was so upset because the person that um wasn't being so nice to me. I'm not gonna call it bullying, but they weren't helping me and they were making me feel worse than I needed to feel. And an adult, instead of making me feel better, they told me that I had to forgive the person because they had stuff going on. And I knew that, but that's not a reason that I have to forgive them. And on top of that, it's invalidating the person's feelings that you tell that to. And I think this is what a lot of adults don't get. The behavior has to stop. Like, although they may be going through something, I'm going through something. Everyone that was in that room, they're going through something. You don't know what everyone's going through. I wasn't going around making people feel bad about themselves, and I was having a pretty bad day. But instead, I uplifted people and I didn't make them feel like garbage. Don't make them feel like trash just because you feel that way. You don't have to invalidate the girl's feelings. And the adult basically told me, like, you have to understand, like, you have to forgive her, like, you can't hold it, like, she's going through this, she's going through that. And very much took away from the aspect of, hey, she just hurt me. She just made me feel like this, like, say something to her as well. You don't have to just tell me to forgive her, you have to tell her to not do it again. And this is what creates that cycle that feels like bullying, is sometimes you tell an adult and the adult can do nothing. And it's really devastating because especially then, you feel alone. And I know for me, it makes me start to feel crazy because I can't help but wonder, am I really the problem here, or are they just making me feel like the problem? Because sometimes when I get anxious and everyone's telling me you have to forgive her, I start thinking if it's me or if that's my anxiety getting to me again. So if a girl has the courage to go to you as an adult, you need to listen to them because that is their cry for help. Like, a lot of people will endure it and just not say anything. So if someone tells you, you need to do something. Be their voice when their voice is gone. Because sometimes they just do so much speaking to the point where they feel like they have no voice. And that's why they'll tell you, is so you can be their voice.
That just made me think of our last year's public relations slogan, be the voice, not the echo. I really liked what you said, Ashley, about the adults talking to adults. That was a really good thing. I like that.
So, girls, do you have anything else that you want the viewers to know or just anyone out there?
Miss Ashley, I 100% have one thing that the viewers need to know is that we just need to be kind to each other. I feel like the topics that we were going over, we just need to be kind and give people grace. Everybody is going through something, like Ashley said, and we never know. We're never going to know. So it's always important to be kind. And yeah, bottom line.
The fact that the teens picked the topic of bullying for a podcast just shows how big of a problem it is. That's it.
Food for
That's all
thought.
from me.
Food for thought.
Anything from you, Maddie, or are you good?
I think I've said everything.
There we go. This has been a fantastic episode. Thank you so much to Mariah and Maddie for coming on the podcast and sharing your thoughts with us. I really hope that you both have enjoyed your time here. And I really just want to say, you two are incredible. I love you. So I hope that all of our viewers at home have enjoyed our discussion about bullying and got some helpful tips, hopefully. I know I particularly loved Mariah's input at the beginning, so I loved it.
Let's
Okay.
look up.
It was great. I love the last part too, where it's like, bottom line, be kind. So, thank you to our listeners for tuning in. Please subscribe or follow our podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And tune in next month for another episode of Let's Talk About Leadership, Service, and Sisterhood, the podcast by teen girls for teen girls. Thank you.